I talk to a lot of job seekers, and I have heard many say, I don't apply to a job unless I meet 100% of the requirements. And I'm going to tell you, that's a bad strategy. I think the reason that people feel this way, part of it is imposter syndrome. Feeling that they could not do the job unless they meet 100% of the requirements. Now, imposter syndrome is a huge issue for a lot of people, and we're not going to go into that today, but that could be in the back of some people's mind. The other is that unless they have 100% of what the job posting says, they don't think that they are going to move forward in the hiring process. And I'm here to tell you, as a former recruiter, that that is not true. In my time, many years doing recruiting, I probably can count on one hand the number of people that I hired that had every single thing on that job posting. That's a super person. And I'll be honest, that's like a needle in a haystack. You are not going to find them generally when you are hiring. You know that you're going to have to give and take. So let's talk about some reasons why that threshold of 100% is probably not realistic and could be doing you some harm in the job market. The first thing is, you know what? That job posting is actually a wish list. I can tell you, when I was a recruiter and I would go and talk to the hiring manager, and we would talk about what was needed in the person that would be taking on this role, what would happen is the hiring manager would start going down a whole list of things. In their mind, because hiring is a high risk activity, they wanted somebody in the role that they thought would have everything in that particular job posting, because then that person would be low risk. They could reasonably assume that the person would be able to be successful in the role. Okay? Now, but on the other hand, not everybody's going to have that. And I think we all know that. We all have different combinations of knowledge, skills, and experiences. So as a recruiter, I would say to that hiring manager, okay, you've got a whole list of things here, but tell me, what are the must-haves that you do not want to see any of the applicants that don't have these particular knowledge, skills, or experience? Because that is going to be essential for the role. When you put it that way, that whole long list gets into a much shorter list, because the realistic thing is that, yeah, they'd love to have somebody that has all of that, but for somebody to be successful in the role, they don't need all of that. Okay? So just know, from a hiring manager perspective, there's must-haves and there's nice-to-haves. Your job posting usually has both, but there is in the background going to be a distinction. Now, you might be saying, as a job seeker, well, how am I supposed to know what is the must-have and the nice-to-have? Sometimes that employer will actually put that out there. Must have this. Okay, then you know that's a must-have. But oftentimes you'll see job postings and that is not the case. So how can you judge that? Well, one of the things I would do is look at what is at the top of the list. When job postings are put together, oftentimes the hiring manager and the recruiter will start with the most important aspects of the job, the most important requirements, and then they work down. So what you tend to see at the top of the list will be more important than what you see at the bottom of the list. So that's one way to make a distinction between what likely are the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. The other thing is, if you see an aspect that appears to be put out there a few times is a good indication that it is a must-have. So that's how you can kind of tell the difference, and there is what you can judge of whether you should apply or not. The second thing is your transferable skills may be very important for that particular employer. And they may be looking for somebody who has something like what you have. I'm going to give an example. When I was hiring, I was looking for a strategic sourcing manager who would focus on protein. That would be beef, chicken, pork, seafood. Finding somebody with that expertise was challenging. So in conversations with my hiring manager, we decided that the strategic sourcing experience was less important than the protein experience, because that expertise was actually really important in this role. So what did that mean? I looked at people who did not have strategic sourcing experience. Maybe they were a chef. Maybe they were in restaurant purchasing. Those experiences were actually very helpful and transferable to the role. We felt that we could teach the strategic sourcing part, but we couldn't really teach the expertise in proteins. So even though that job posting did ask for strategic sourcing experience, it was not a requirement for someone to move forward in the hiring process. The third thing is you don't know what your competition is. And I can tell you as a former recruiter, a lot of people apply for jobs that are not qualified or minimally qualified. But as a job seeker, you don't know who your competition is. And so you may have actually quite a lot of the qualifications and be actually more qualified for the role than a lot of your competition. So if you did not apply because you didn't meet 100% of the qualifications, you still may have been a leading candidate because you had a great deal of the qualifications and much more than your competition. And so that is why you should always think about what you have and what your competition may be lacking. And the fourth thing is diversity. They're looking for a lot of different things that might be relevant for the role. They're looking for knowledge, skills, experience, but they may be looking for candidates that can bring something a little different to the role. Now, diversity can mean a lot of different things. But so I'm sure that one of the questions then is, okay, if I don't need to have 100%, well, what is a good percentage to have? That's a really good question. And I like to say you are probably well qualified for the role if you have 70 to 80% of the qualifications that are listed on that job posting. You can apply if you have less, but the chances of you moving forward are going to greatly decrease because they are going to expect that you have the majority of the qualifications to make sure that you can do the job and you could be successful. So I'm always thinking about efficient use of time for job seekers. And I know a lot of people will say they have submitted hundreds of applications. And when I ask and we kind of dig deep into it, oftentimes they are applying to jobs where they don't meet the majority of the qualifications. And of course, they don't hear anything back. So as a job seeker, I want you to use your time efficiently. And so I think 70 to 80% of the qualifications is a good percentage that you should be qualified for the role and have a good chance of moving forward to the interview round. If you enjoyed this video, I ask if you would like and subscribe to it.